New York Rangers have bought out the contract of Henrik Lundqvist. He's been a Ranger for 15 seasons, has all the Ranger goalie records, a Vezina trophy, and was a Vezina finalist in 4 seasons. I believe a 5-time All-Star. And really, to me, my favorite Ranger growing up and the franchise. Every year, year in, year out, no matter what the roster consisted of, I felt going into the season that the New York Rangers could contend for a cup. You know, maybe in these latter years, the last 2, it's been obviously a little more difficult to wrap your brain around that happening. But especially from, I would call it the golden era from 2011 to 2015 for the New York Rangers, you know, he was the best goalie in hockey. And it's, you know, I think it's really, I wouldn't call it a tragedy because obviously a lot's happening in our world, but it's devastating as a Ranger fan that we never got Henrik Lundqvist the cup. You can't chalk that up wholly to front office because they did build, you know, multiple iterations of teams that they thought were cup contenders, whether that be in 2008 with Chris Drury and Scott Gomez in those years, to the, you know, McDonough and Callahan years with St. Louis, and to even, you know, the new Rangers with Panarin and Zibanejad. But, you know, I think at this time people are just going to look at the negative. Lundqvist never got a cup, but I want to celebrate his career, and Brennan, I know you want to do the same.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at a guy who plays a premium position, and especially not just in the context of the game, but in the context of fanhood as well. Most of the time, the most liked player on the team is either your enforcer or your goalie. So you love to see a guy like that go out on a good note, but at the same time, when it hurts the team, you got to try and find a balance. And I think that this was, we kind of saw it coming, and this kind of was where things were going from the beginning of the season, with the Rangers having 2 quality goalkeepers other than Lundqvist. So you don't like to see it, but at the same time, it was something that we had prepared for. We kind of were expecting to happen by this Wednesday deadline. And I mean, you look at Lundqvist's career. He's a guy that has won multiple trophies for being the best goalie in the league. He's always up there in conversation. I mean, just 2 years ago, he won the penalty shootout competition at the All-Star game, where he probably shouldn't have been in the All-Star game, but the Rangers needed a representative. So you're going to send a guy who's the fan favorite, and he goes out and wins. So, you know, it's those kind of moments where, yes, the Rangers never won a cup. Yes, they only went once. But at the same time, you know, he gave you a lot of quality years and a lot of quality saves, highlight reel plays that you can be a fan of and you can still enjoy as a fan, even though you don't have the cup.
Yeah, and I agree with that, pretty much everything you said, Brennan. And even off the ice, in terms of what he's done with his foundation, the Henrik Lundqvist Foundation, the Garnet Dreams, he's just been a consummate professional. I mean, the biggest, you know, scandal or anything you could say negatively about him is, oh, he models too much. He looks too handsome coming off a plane. Like, that's the worst you could say about him in this modern era. Like, that's amazing. He's been a great consummate New Yorker for 15 years. And, you know, again, I hate to see him go. Luckily for the New York Rangers, I think they have the franchise goalie that's going to be there the next 10 years following him, and that's Igor Shesterkin. But, you know, it's tough to see him, you know, go away. And just on a personal note, too, you know, Eli was my favorite Giant, gone. Lundqvist, my favorite Ranger, gone. And then, you know, depending on what happens, I think Brett Gardner will have his final season as a New York Yankee as well. So I'm going to have to find some new favorite athletes for my team. But, you know, I wish Henrik the best. I personally, and I know, Brendan, you fall in the same camp, do not want him to go anywhere else. Just retire, go back to Sweden. Like, you know, I don't want him to go win a cup with the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't want him to go to Calgary or anywhere. Just, you know, but obviously he can make his own decision. And, you know, a great career and a great New Yorker.
And you know, you mentioned not wanting him to go to another team. I think at this point in sports, it's so rare for an athlete to only stick with one franchise for their entire career. I mean, we've been lucky to see it in New York sports quite a bit, with Derek Jeter being one of the greatest shortstops of all time and staying with the Yankees for his entire career, and now with Lundqvist being one of the greatest goalies of all time, one of the top 2 of the decade according to NHL.com, and you know, staying with the Rangers for hopefully his entire career. But also, we got to put this into perspective. Think about how ugly Lundqvist could have made this buyout. I mean, after the Rangers bought him out on Wednesday, we saw both the organization and him post on Instagram, on Twitter, on any other social media talking about the mutual respect between both of them and the decisions that each side had made. I mean, you don't always get that, but I think that it proves how much of a professional he is. It proves how much he loved being in New York and how much he loved being a Ranger specifically. And I think the organization tried to show as much respect as possible from their side, but also make good business decisions as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And even those years too, even though I said earlier, Cup contender every year, there was years the front office said, hey, Henrik, this maybe isn't the best roster we can compile right now, but it's a rebuild on the fly. Again, many iterations, and he stayed pat. And again, just a true professional, Brennan, like you mentioned, and tough to see him go. Tough to see him go.